Before I get started with today's parts of the bond hearing for trash, I do want to put out a huge disclaimer. There is a lot of trigger warnings. If you get triggered by CP or child abuse, CSAM, things like that, I highly suggest you do not watch this series if it's going to make you feel uncomfortable. I want to make sure that y'all are protected, and I've been asked a lot of times to go over this and give everyone kind of like the full details, and that's what I'm doing. But if it's something that you do not want to watch, no offense taken, because we still have fun content coming. I'm going to get some other stuff done, but I'm doing this for y'all, so just a huge warning. This is going to be a heavy topic. Today I'm going to go over the first court hearing for Trashua James Duggar. But before I get started, I'm going to take a stress relief gummy. Link in my bio. They're so good. They help with anxiety, stress, or if you just want to relax. Link in my bio gets you 20% off. They smell like the trolley gummy worms, the sour one. And they taste like them. Oh my gosh, so good. Thank you to Aries. 10 out of 10 has changed my entire life. If you go into my beacon, there's a link. It's the first link. So again, shout out to Nuggets of Chicken on Duggar Snark, who sat in on the Zoom meeting from the bond hearing for Trashua. This happened 5/5, so May 5th. The trial starts, dimension change. The trial starts November 30th, and I will be covering what we can of that. A lot of it will be sealed because there are minors involved. So he starts off, he or she, I'm so sorry, or they, I'm not sure. I was able to get the Zoom link for the bond hearing at 1:30. I plan to edit this post with the summary once the hearing is completed. I'm not allowed to access social media during the proceeding, yada yada. He's a 2-year law student. 2L law student who got an A- in criminal procedure. Shout out to people saying I should get extra credit for doing this. My final is tomorrow on business organizations. I really hope that they got a 10 out of 10 on that, 100 out of 100. So 71 people are present on the Zoom call. Amy King left herself unmuted and everyone can hear her on her speakerphone trying to figure out how to use Zoom. Lauren S. is present, might be Lauren Duggar, Josiah's wife, with her maiden name, probably not. Jill was present, John David may have been present. The hearing begins. Witnesses may be sequestered by going into breakout rooms. Travis Story, he's the counsel for the defense, says that his witnesses are outside his conference room and he's going to physically get them from the hallway in front of his computer. Sorry I'm talking so fast. I'm filming on my lunch break, and after work I can't film. I have a ton to do with moving. Sorry, so this might be multiple days of posts. Court gets called to order. Honorable Judge Christy Comstock presiding. A quick Google shows that Judge Comstock took the bench in April 2021. Trash was present. His Zoom display was WCDC T14, probably Washington County Detention Center, in whatever room block he was in. He doesn't seem particularly nervous when he speaks up to note that he is present. Chipper might be a little strong, but he seems pleasant and unbothered, just like his fucking mugshot. Ew. Observers get reminded there is no broadcasting, no recording, no photographs, and some issue arises where, this is part 2. Some issue arises where the AUSA can't hear the audio. Judge goes to speak with the clerk. Trash turns his camera away from himself and mentions we are just taking a break to an undisclosed listener, a prison guard maybe. It looks like he's in prison. 1:53, and it seems like we are finally starting. Judge asks if Payne, which his defense, can hear her. He says yes, and the judge mumbles, yeah, that's still terrible, blah, blah, blah. Pest responds to judge's questions about whether he can hear her and understands that he's waived his right to appear in person with a strong yes, your honor. The judge explains once again that witnesses will be sequestered in a waiting room so that they can hear other witnesses' testimonies. The AUSA tends to call Pest probation officer, and defense counsel has no objection to exempting the probation officer from the sequestering. Good Lord, the big words that I don't know. So this was the beginning. So now we're going to talk about the prosecution, first witness and second witness, and then tomorrow we'll talk about the rest. This is some dark, deep stuff. A lot of the stuff was blacked out, and I won't be talking about that. It's fucking gross. If you want to find this thread, it's in my beacon under Duggar Reddit. If you just look up pest arrest, that's what they call trash. So the prosecution's first witness directs Special Agent Gerald Faulkner. He's a special agent with Homeland Security Investigations. He's been with them since April of 2009, has been working federal child exploitation cases since 2010, works with the ICAC Task Force, which is Internet Child Against Children, worked over 1,000 child exploitation cases, a vast majority involved in online P. In May of 2019, there was an investigation of a BitTorrent program that noted activity in the upper northwest area of Arkansas involving distribution of known CP images. So this is what led to the raid at Trash's car lot. Explanation of peer-to-peer file sharing networks known by law enforcement as commonly used to distribute CP. BitTorrent is a version of peer-to-peer sharing. On May 15th and 14th, detective was able to download 2 files. This was edited and removed. Faulkner describes graphically what the CA decides. Please PM me if you want a description, but be very warned, blah, blah, blah. Don't. It's disgusting. I read it. You don't want to read it. It is awful. It has to do with DD. Police used ISP and the geographic location of the IP address to locate the activity, and it got directed to the DHS task force to assess it. In October of 2019, ISP revealed the account in question was owned by Trashua James Duggar with an address in Springdale. Apparently, the mapping system was out of date, and the proper address was Wholesale Motor Cars for the account associated with the activity. DHS obtained a federal search warrant to search the car lot. The warrant was executed on November 8th, 2019 at 3:15 p.m. This was the federal raid. Car lot is adjacent to Highway 12 between Springdale and Something Springs. At the time of the search warrant, there were approximately 30 cars and an RV on the lot. 2 buildings, a shed undergoing remodel, and a metal building the size of a toll booth, which they found out was the main office. When officers arrived on the scene, they encountered Trash and 2 individuals. Police approached with a soft approach, no weapons drawn, explained the investigation was underway with suspected contraband electronically. This was not an arrest warrant, so the 3 people there were free to leave. Police did not tell them case-specific facts because it could spoil statements that could be made. None of the vehicles, none of the uniforms worn indicated that it was a child exploitation case. Trash produced his cell phone and said he wanted to call his attorney. Police said the phone was under investigation and then seized the phone to prevent any spoliation of evidence. Trash remained on the scene during the investigations. He was not guarded by law enforcement during the search. You can't really see it, but it says police seized a desktop computer, a MacBook laptop, inside an RV, and Trash's iPhone. The government exhibition 1 is the photograph of the Wholesale Motor Cars main office. Exhibit 2 is a photograph of the desktop computer. Wallpaper has a photo of Trash and their kids, but the kids have been redacted. After securing the scene, they asked Trash if he'd be willing to discuss the issues. He agreed to speak with them. Conversation did happen inside a government vehicle. Duggar was passenger side, other officer was in the rear seat, and Faulkner was in the driver's seat. Another officer received verbal consent from Duggar to record the interview. At this point in time, Trash asks, "What is this about? Has someone been downloading CP?" At that point, no one has told Duggar that CP was an issue in this case. You literally just gave yourself away. You fucking thank God, because you deserve to sit in jail. Officer Mirandized Duggar his rights. Duggar said he owned and operated the car lot since June 2018, that he owned the desktop computer they found, as well as the MacBook and the cell phone they seized. He said he owned his phone, but other families could have access to it. He declined to provide the password to the desktop or the phone to law enforcement. He said he owned the MacBook that other family members had access to. He said in response to a question from law enforcement that he was familiar with peer-to-peer file sharing networks, but did not wish to comment further. He noted that TOR or Tor might have been accessed by the desktop. Next part gets a little... Oof. TOR or Tor is a browser used to access the dark web, which is known source for CP. At this point, law enforcement did not have a reason to believe Tor/the dark web was an issue in this case. When asked if he was familiar with BitTorrent, Duggar declined to answer that question. At this point, law enforcement explained that the investigation involved someone had been using BitTorrent or peer-to-peer networks from that car lot to access CP involving children between the ages of 5 to 10. We now learn later that it was actually children between the ages of 18 months to 12, I believe. When asked whether he had any reason to suspect or had seen anyone using his computer accessing CP, Duggar said, "I'd rather not answer that question." Bitch, you already dug your grave. Like, what the fuck are we doing here? The officers did find the BitTorrent and Tor on the desktop, and officers found fucking Covenant Eyes on the computer. Information from Covenant Eyes indicated that the program was registered to Trash and Anna, and on May 13th, 2019, the day before the IP address was pinged, a Linux partition had been installed on the computer. Linux or Linux partitions can divide the hard drive of the computer into two isolated sections that work independently. The partition was password protected and the last 4 characters of the password were redacted. But now we know that it was his fucking birthday. But they did find out that those passwords had been used on a variety of his accounts over the years. The Linux partition side did not have Covenant Eyes installed on it, so the activity would have not been tracked. This is where I believe that Anna had no idea what was going on, because you can't track the side of the Linux or the Linux that he divided. On the MacBook, there was BitTorrent as well as Covenant Eyes. Duggar had backed up his iPhone to that MacBook, which allowed law enforcement to obtain texts, photos, etc. from the MacBook. Law enforcement found iChat messages from May 13th to 16th, 2016 on the computer. Exhibit 3 is a forensic examination summary of May 13th and 14th extracted from Duggar's electronic devices. D objects to moving Exhibit 3 in evidence because of the lack of foundation and argues that it was prepared for litigation purposes, but the witness was not the expert who created it. But his passwords were his birthday. P provides more foundation for the exhibit and judge admits it. Exhibit is displayed, basically summarizes the sus computer activity in May 2019. The Linux partition was created, and on the same day the Tor browser was installed on that side of the partition. On May 14th at 4:49, Pest sends a text that says, "Got stuck here and still not free yet. I'm going to aim for tomorrow just after lunch." On May 14th at 4:58, the Tor browser was used to access P sites associated with R and files associated with CP. Video was downloaded. At 5:38, user accessed BitTorrent. 2 videos were downloaded. Little Rock officer was notified. At 5:41 p.m., user accesses Tor directory site and website associated with BitTorrent. On May 15, 2019 and 11:35, computer user downloads 3 files associated with CP. Throughout the course of the day on May 15th, Trash Duggar sends texts to 22 members of the Duggar family asking them to pray for a motorcyclist who got in an accident by Wholesale Motors. Computer also gets used to write reviews online under the name Trashua. There were geological locations of photos taken at the car lot by Trash's phone, but that piece of evidence doesn't get admitted because D objects to lack of foundation regarding the reliability of geolocation data. This is blocked out, and I will not be talking about it because it's disgusting. Trash's screen goes black. AUSA wants to double check that he's still present. He turns his screen back on. At 6:56, user of desktop downloads a zip that contains 65 images of CP. May 16th, the user of desktop downloads files called, yeah, that's great, Pedomom. The zip has been opened and the CP images have been viewed by the desktop. Approximately 200 images of CP were located on the desktop in an unallocated space, which means someone tried to delete them. Friends and family at the time testified that Trash had a P addiction. That was one prosecution witness. One. That's just one. It has nothing to do with number 2. So I have to go back to work. So it looks like I'm going to be doing these in parts. After I'm done with packing and stuff tonight, I will try to do Special Agent number 2, but I want to get this up for you guys as soon as possible. So this is something we will be talking about throughout the day, today, tomorrow, maybe Saturday. But that was one prosecution witness. tonight or tomorrow, we'll go over the prosecution's second witness and try to get through the defense and everything else. I might have time tomorrow to sit down and film all of this. It'll be a long one. And yes, once I'm done with all of these, I'm actually going to upload them all together in one video and put it on my YouTube channel. So, here we go, people. This is just the fucking beginning. I'm gonna go eat another, so, see ya. Link in bio if you're into that sort of stuff. They're yummy.